Father's coming back with a cape, monstrance. He's got the incenser. He's going to town. He's back in business. This is a 90-year-old priest. He's back in business. So he's got all this stuff. He's gone down the bottle. He says, I got a good price on it. I said, you got any change left? He says, no. I'd give him $1,500. He had to put another $500 in to buy all this stuff. Well, anyway, he comes back with all this good stuff. And so he was thinking just a small crew, maybe this size, for benediction and the rosary on that Sunday, which is what I was expecting. I kid you not, that Sunday, cars just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. And we must have had 350 people or so, and they came from Chicago, they came from Detroit, they came from Indianapolis, they came from Cleveland, they came from all over. Father Hibble was so irritated with me, beyond irritation. He was fuming. He said, you're going to get me in so much trouble with the bishop on this. I said, what for? He says, well, we didn't ask for permission to do this. I said, well, I didn't know we needed permission. He says, oh, yeah. He says, this is a big public deal. This wasn't just a private thing. Everyone's coming from all over. I said, I didn't tell anybody except for the few people. But everyone just showed up and coming in. Where are they coming in? Just for a rosary and benediction? You know, something went on that day that brought all these people in. Well, I think with that day, with all those prayers down there in that big chapel there, we had benediction that night. And all those people prayed and stayed. And it got so late for Father Hibble, he went back to his room and fell asleep. Well, what he ended up doing was he left the Eucharist in the tabernacle down there. And that tabernacle down there had a broken lock. And so it's against canon law to leave the Eucharist in an unlocked tabernacle without somebody being there for full devotion. So I had adoration and all that. So I ended up, I didn't want to go risk the wrath of Father, so I didn't go wake him up, have him come down and move the host, because that would have really got me into more trouble and opened up the conversation again. So in order for him not to be angry, I stayed up all night down in there, in that chapel there, just having an all-night holy hour, holy night, so to speak. So we had the Eucharist done in that chapel, we had the Eucharist done in the little chapel. So with the Eucharist defending this place, after that night, we did not have another single problem with any other kind of conflict of an evil sort in this place. And Ruby, the next day she came, she was back over in the West Wing. She comes back, she says, something's different. And I go, what do you mean? She says, I don't feel the bad guy over there anymore. You know, and Ruby's kind of sensitive to things, and, you know, she's more Catholic than a lot of us here, even though she's not Catholic, but it doesn't matter. She was zeroed in and kind of came back, and she didn't know what we'd really done over the weekend, but I was kind of like, well, maybe that's what it was about. But the blind lady had told me to have the benediction, that would safeguard the place and reconsecrate it fully. And so we did that night, and I had to deal with Father Hibble throughout the rest of the week, but he came to believe me that I didn't do anything to try to get all these people to come. They just showed up, the Holy Spirit went to town and got all these people in here. And it's never been like that since. It was that one day. It was just unbelievable. Everyone just showed up for this thing. But Linda, the blind lady, she said, well, you know, I wanted to build, she says, tell me about the sports and stuff you're doing. And I said, well, I'm going to do baseball and softball and all like that. She says, no. I said, what's wrong? She says, soccer. I said, soccer? I said, I don't really like soccer. I was a baseball guy. You know, we didn't play soccer growing up. You know, we laughed at the kids playing soccer. I said, I don't know anything about soccer. I said, I know there's 11 players or something like that. I said, I don't know. She says, you don't have to like it, just build the damn fields. She says, that's what she wants you to do. And I was like, soccer? She says, okay. You can build 4 baseball diamonds. But they got to be big ones, the full-size, major league size, and you can't put up fences. I said, you can't play baseball without an outfield wall. You know, she says, you can build the fields, but don't put up the fences. And I said, okay. And I had all this, so we got it all built up there. I got 15 soccer fields and 4 major league size ball diamonds, which we ended up using for extra soccer fields. So, because soccer got so big here for a while, I didn't have enough fields. So we had this whole place filled with kids, and we ended up hosting the Olympic Development Program here one time for all the combined states around. So they brought all their athletes in here for a long weekend, and they said they were going to come with 400. They ended up with like 540 people, and so I was like 140 beds short. And food short, and they said, well, you're just going to have to deal with it. And I'm like, where am I going to put all these people? So we had people sleeping in the hallways and cots and stuff like that. Every bed in this place was full. I mean, there wasn't room for another cat or a mouse in this place. It was packed. And my aunt was working the gift shop, and my brother, who was the one that we talked about, my blessed mother said that he would die, but not until he had seen this place in all its glory. Well, he's out there selling the bottles of Gatorade, bottles of water, and he's just having a great old time with all these kids coming up and, taking their money, just meeting all these kids and all like that. And my aunt comes out of the gift shop, she says, oh, this place is in all its glory. And I'm like, yeah. And then I realized, oh. I looked over at my brother, and I just, So he died, I think 2 years later. But he had seen the place in all its glory, and that just kind of brought it all to a head for me. I thought, well, she made a deal, she kept her deal, and he was real happy, and it was very positive and hopeful. And it was like, with this gift of knowledge, though, came this great responsibility. So it was like, oh. So it took me a while to come back from that, but I just realized, hey, it's part of life. We all make the deal when we take our first breath. And so I've been okay with it, since then. But, I still miss him, but, hey, what the heck? He's waiting. He's still helping. So, but everything the blind lady had said would happen has happened. And the last thing we're still waiting for, she said a young priest would come along in the 11th hour and put it all together. So we're praying for a young priest.
Now, who was Linda? She was an angel?
Don't know a last name, wouldn't give me a last name.
Think she was an angel, though?
No, Linda was a real person.
She was a real person.
But she was a very prayerful person from Mishawaka, blind. And she had to get her friend to fly up from Dallas, Fort Worth, to come and rent a car and drive her down there. I said, well, if you called me, I'd have come and got you. She says, it doesn't work that way. She says, you can't know me.
Right.
This is a one-time deal that I'm here. And she says, I'm telling you what to do. She says, Our Lady's very pleased, with you having said yes. And, but it was very, very overwhelming that day as far as, all that. And I'm like, trying to put all these things together. So, we don't know about this young priest, but I'll tell some of you, if you're praying today or whatever, pray for a Father Link, because as part of this whole thing, Father Link is celebrating his first year this month of being a priest. He's 72 years old. He's a young priest. 72. But this is the jokes that comes with it. So all this time, when I shared this with Irvin and John, we've been looking for a young priest in his 20s to come along full of charisma.
Right.
Oh, here comes a young priest. And then this Father Link kind of comes into the equation here a couple months ago. And everything was fitting. And I'm going, the guy's 72 years old. And then I realized, heck, he hasn't even been a priest for a whole year yet. This guy led a full life. Had 5 kids. He's got 13 grandkids. His wife dies of cancer 5 years ago. So what does he decide to do? Give everything away and become a priest. And the bishop and Gary says, well, I'll ordain you. He says, but I'm not going to give you a job in any parish. He says, you're going to go to work in the prison. He says, so you're going to be the prison chaplain. I'm going to give you death row. He says, fine. He's the prison chaplain over in Michigan City, Indiana State Prison. Taking the place over. He's got those inmates in there working their rosaries like crazy. He's fighting really hard against the Muslims in there with their prayer beads. He's getting rosaries out there. So I got ladies that make rosaries for us here. They're making him rosaries, and he's getting these guys all the rosaries he can and working things. And I called him one day. He says, well, you got everything you need there. You just need money. And I go, yeah, I need money. And he goes, well, he says, that's all you need. He says, we just got to get you the money. And I go, yeah, we got to find someone to give us the money. He said, I don't want to make any money. I just want to preserve the place. He goes, well, even better. He says, but he says, I sit on a lot of